After witnessing a disturbing incident involving dangerous creatures called ghouls at the Aqua building in the 20th Ward, the CCG responds promptly and sends their agents to handle the situation. They find a female ghoul, naked and feasting on dead bodies, but she manages to escape from a masked man who was ordered to capture her. The next day, college student Kaneki is at a cafe with his best friend Hideyoshi Nagachika when they hear news about the Aqua building incident. They playfully talk about Kanki's crush, and he meets the waitress, Tauka Kirishima. Later, Kaneki spots a girl named Rise Kamishiro at the cafe, and they seem to share a connection over a book they both read. Kaneki gets a date with Rise at a bookstore, while Hideyoshi is investigating near the Aqua building with ghoul investigators Yasutomo Nakajima and Nippei Kusaba. On their date, Kaneki and Rise talk about their favorite author, and he notices that she doesn't eat much. She reveals she lives near the ghoul-related crime area and feels scared. Kaneki promises to walk her home, and during their walk, Rise reveals her true ghoul nature and attacks him. Rise's attack leaves Kaneki lifeless, but she gets crushed by steel beams. Kaneki is taken to the hospital, and Rise's organs are transplanted into him. Afterward, Kaneki experiences a lack of appetite and undergoes some psychological struggles. He isolates himself, but Hyde remains determined to help him as they are best friends. Kanki's hunger for human flesh intensifies, and he witnesses ghouls in action, leading to disturbing thoughts. He meets a ghoul named Kazuo Yoshida and is attacked by Nishiki Nishio. Tauka intervenes and tries to make Kaneki eat flesh to quench his hunger, but he refuses, desperate to retain his humanity. After becoming a ghoul, Kaneki refuses to consume human flesh, finding it repulsive despite his new nature. This refusal angers Tauka, who attacks him until their manager, Yoshimura, intervenes. Yoshimura invites Kaneki for coffee, a rare consumable for ghouls, but it can't satisfy their hunger. Yoshimura gives Kaneki a package with food and offers more if needed. Tauka questions why Yoshimura is helping him, and he explains that Kanki's body is changing due to the organ transplant from Rise, who was declared dead after the incident. Back home, Kaneki struggles with the urge to eat the meat from Yoshimura but resists when he receives a text from his best friend, Hyde. The next day, Kaneki returns to school, where Hyde introduces him to his upperclassman, Nishiki Nishio, who was previously a threat. Nishiki seems friendly and invites them to his home. Concerned for Hyde's safety, Kaneki insists on going along. During their visit, Kaneki discovers that Nishiki can eat human food and blend into society. However, Nishiki attacks both Kaneki and Hyde, injuring them. As Nishiki threatens Hyde's life, Kaneki recalls their childhood friendship, and it gives him the strength to use his kagyun, a ghoul weapon, for the first time. Kaneki defeats Nishiki but struggles with hunger and Rise's illusion tempting him. On the verge of harming Hyde due to his cravings, Kaneki fights with Tauka, who tries to reason with him. Eventually, Kaneki wakes up at Anteku, where Yoshimura reveals that he fed him while unconscious to prevent harm to Hyde. Overwhelmed by guilt, Kaneki feels isolated, but Yoshimura reassures him and invites him to join Anteku. Kaneki accepts the invitation and starts learning how to make coffee. Meanwhile, Amin and Mato, ghoul investigators, investigate the binge eater and Jason cases, finding a crucial clue in the pliers left by Rise. Hyde wakes up, feeling content. Dr. Asaki is attending to a patient when Jason, a menacing figure, pays a visit, terrifying the family. Meanwhile, at Anteku, Kaneki is adjusting to his role as a waiter and a ghoul. Yoshimura, the manager, mentors Kaneki in coffee making and explains Anteku's mission of coexistence between ghouls and humans. Kaneki wonders why Yoshimura holds a favorable view of humans. Hyde surprises Kaneki by visiting the cafe to thank Tauka for her assistance during the accident. Tauka warns Kaneki that they must keep their true nature as ghouls a secret from Hyde, even if it means resorting to extreme measures. Ryoko and Hanami Fugachi arrive, and Tauka promptly assists them, refusing to divulge their situation to Kaneki. Tauka hints about guys in suits, and at the CCG's 20th Ward branch office, a meeting discusses crucial ghoul investigations. Marud reports on a potential ghoul gang in the 11th Ward, while Amin shares information about Jason and the pliers found at the scene. Impressed with Amin, Marud appoints him and Mato to lead the investigation with the goal of eliminating ghouls in Tokyo. Back at Anteku, Yoshimura teaches Kaneki how to eat human food and gives him special sugar cubes to suppress his hunger. Yoshimura asks Kaneki to help procure food on Tauka's behalf, a daunting task that he reluctantly accepts. Meanwhile, Mato and Amin actively search the streets, capturing and interrogating ghouls about Jason's pliers. When one refuses to cooperate, Mato kills him. At Anteku, Yoshimura advises Kaneki to wear a mask for protection, and Tauka agrees to take him to get one made. They visit HYSY Art Mask Studio and meet Yuta, who seems eccentric. Kaneki appreciates the difficult lives ghouls have when interacting with humans after hearing Yuta's perspective. Kaneki becomes determined to help Hanami and learns about the significance of wearing a mask to conceal his identity from investigators. During their investigation, Ammon and Mato confront two ghouls about Jason's pliers, leading to a violent confrontation. At Anteku, Kaneki tries to connect with Hanami but feels nervous, leading to a misunderstanding. However, they eventually bond over a book, and Kaneki promises to teach her more about kanji. A surviving ghoul from Ammon and Mato's encounter discusses the increasing danger in the 20th ward with a friend. Their conversation is cut short when the friend is killed, attracting the attention of Mato and Ammon. Hanami and her mother visit Anteku, and Hanami is in better spirits. As they head upstairs, a mysterious and formidable man arrives at the cafe. A mysterious man named Shu Tsukiyama visits Anteku and takes an interest in Kaneki, but Kaneki feels uncomfortable with his behavior. Tauka, who works at the coffee shop, is annoyed by Tsukiyama and sends him away, but he promises to return. Kaneki wonders who Tsukiyama is, and Tauka warns him to stay away. Later, Tsukiyama is shown consuming the eyes of virgins as a meal and remembers Kanki's scent. Tauka has lunch with her friend Yuriko at school, who worries about Tauka's eating habits. Yuriko convinces Tauka to eat homemade food, and although Tauka pretends to eat without any issues, she struggles not to vomit and feels weak. Meanwhile, Kaneki is reading and drinking coffee when Tsukiyama visits him again, making Kaneki suspicious. Tsukiyama invites Kaneki to a cafe where the author they both like is rumored to visit. Tsukiyama mentions being friends with Rise, which convinces Kaneki, and they agree to meet again. At Anteku, Kaneki reflects on Tsukiyama not seeming so bad. Yoshimura allows Kaneki to take the day off and informs him that Yomo wants to meet him. Yomo takes Kaneki to an underground area and begins training him in hand-to-hand combat. After the training, Yomo takes Kaneki to a bar named Helter Skelter, where they meet the bar owner, Itori. She tests Kaneki by throwing a glass of blood in his face, causing his ghoul eye to activate. Itori discusses one-eyed ghouls, ghouls born from both human and ghoul parents, considered rare and often seen as a myth. Kaneki asks Itori about Rise, and she can only offer rumors, suggesting that Rise's death may have been intentional, with supposed sightings of someone on the building where she died. Later, Kaneki and Tsukiyama meet again at a cafe to discuss Rise. Tsukiyama shares their previous conversation and recalls a painful memory of his past interaction with Rise when she rejected him harshly. He proposes taking Kaneki to one of Rise's favorite places. Kaneki goes to the place and is asked to take a shower and wear fancy clothes. He is then taken to a platform that descends into a pit where ghouls are watching. Tsukiyama, referring to himself as Mr. MM, reveals his plan to make Kaneki their meal for the night. A chaotic scene unfolds, with Taro, Madame's helper, attempting to harm Kaneki, but Kanki's ghoul eye activates, showing he's a one-eyed ghoul. Enraged, Kaneki breaks free and Tsukiyama steps in to protect him, claiming Kaneki as his prized possession. After a tense encounter with Taro, Kaneki wakes up from a nightmare. The 20th ward experiences increased ghoul investigator activity, making the customers at Anteku uneasy. Yoshimura asks Kaneki to visit the sick Tauka, who is staying in the apartment upstairs. Kaneki goes to see her and notices the name Ayato Kirishima on the door. Ryoko comes out of Tauka's apartment, leaving her to watch over Hanami. While helping Hanami with her studies, Kaneki learns that Tauka got sick from overeating. Yuriko pays a surprise visit and brings food for Tauka, but she leaves quickly upon seeing Kaneki, assuming they have a romantic relationship. She leaves the stew for them to share, and Tauka forces herself to eat it, revealing Yuriko's importance to her. Meanwhile, Tsukiyama obsesses over what to do about Kaneki and formulates a plan while sniffing a bloodied handkerchief. After training with Yomo, Kaneki finds Nishiki being attacked by some ghouls. Despite their history, Kaneki decides to save him. After the fight, Kaneki helps Nishiki back to his apartment, where he meets Kimi. Initially suspicious of Kaneki, Kimi eventually trusts him and agrees to let him help Nishiki. Kaneki attempts to get food for Nishiki at Anteku but finds the refrigerator locked. During this time, Kimi goes out to buy coffee but is kidnapped by Tsukiyama. At Anteku, Kaneki finds a rose and a note from Tsukiyama, stating that he has taken Kimi and where to find them. Nishiki, after a long absence, manages to reach Anteku, and Kaneki shows him the note. They decide to rescue Kimi together. They follow Tsukiyama's instructions and arrive at a church, where Tsukiyama plans to have Kaneki eat Kimi while he eats Kaneki. Kaneki and Nishiki are disgusted by Tsukiyama's selfishness and engage in a fight with him. However, Tsukiyama proves too powerful, knocking Nishiki unconscious. Just as Tsukiyama approaches Kaneki, Tauka intervenes, eager to fight. Despite her efforts, Tsukiyama heals instantly and their battle continues. Kaneki joins the fight, determined not to beat Tsukiyama's meal and to rescue Kimi. They attack Tsukiyama together, but he overpowers them. Tsukiyama pierces Kanki's abdomen, tasting his blood, and is overwhelmed by its deliciousness. He restrains himself to proceed with his plan, seeking greater pleasure. Tauka attempts another attack, but Tsukiyama uses his Kagyun to incapacitate her. Tsukiyama then approaches Kimi, causing Kaneki to worry. He notices a scar on Kimi's shoulder and realizes her history with Nishiki. Nishiki wakes up and remembers his past, seeking revenge before turning to college. Kimi saved him when he was in a tough spot, and she offered her flesh to keep him alive. Kaneki understands the significance of human flesh for ghouls to use their powers properly and decides to share his flesh with Tauka to make her stronger. Tsukiyama becomes angry and attacks Tauka, but she defends herself with her powers, asserting that nothing belongs to Tsukiyama. After Tauka takes a bite of Kanki's flesh, she gains the strength to fight Tsukiyama, who is excited about her strong performance and plans to use her organs as a garnish. However, when he tries to harm Kimi, Nishiki steps in to protect her. This enraged Tsukiyama, and he repeatedly stabs Nishiki. In the midst of the fight, Tauka critically wounds Tsukiyama, and he attempts to reach Kaneki but is ultimately finished off by her. After the intense incident at the church, Kaneki returns to his normal life at Anteku. He has a conversation with Hyde, who is now served by Nishiki, who has become a waiter at the cafe. They talk about Tauka, who hasn't been to work since the church incident. A heated argument between Hanami and Ryoko ensues at the cafe, resulting in Hanami running off. Kaneki tries to speak to Hanami, but his efforts fail. He then talks to Ryoko and learns that she wants to see her father, but due to his shady past catching up to him, they have to be apart for a while. Ryoko apologizes to Hanami and promises to make changes by buying her a present. Meanwhile, Yamori visits Dr. Fuguchi to obtain his pliers, eager to use them on Rise. However, Dr. Fuguchi asks Yamori not to come back, leading to a confrontation. Yamori attacks Dr. Fuguchi, crashing through a wall, and outside, Amin and Mato are waiting. Yamori decides to fight them by himself. While he manages to hold them off for a while, he eventually loses interest and leaves. Despite not capturing Yamori, Mato believes they have gathered enough leads for another case related to the Fuguchi family. Kaneki visits Tauka at Anteku, but she remains upset and doesn't want to come back to work. He reflects on the recent fight between Hanami and her mother, realizing that love between parents and children is the same, whether they're ghouls or humans. Kaneki mentions Nishiki and Kimi's relationship as a potential sign of better understanding between ghouls and humans. He apologizes to Tauka for mentioning her relationship with Yuriko during the church incident, understanding their concerns about being rejected by their human friends, Hyde and Yuriko. Later, Kaneki spends time with Hanami, explaining a new word to her. Ryoko joins them and thanks Kaneki for being with Hanami. On the streets, Nakajima and Kusaba are asking people about some clothes and photos, while Hyde watches from afar. In the rain, Hanami and Ryoko leave a bookstore, and Hanami excitedly talks about the word she learned. However, Ryoko senses some suspicious men and tries to avoid them, but they spot them. Hanami is confused but excitedly runs ahead when she smells her father's scent. Her mother tries to catch up. Hanami encounters investigators Mato and Amin, and her mother uses her powers to protect her, telling her to run back to Anteku. As Hanami runs through the rain, calling for help, she drops her new book, catching Kanki's attention as he walks through the streets. Kaneki noticed Hanami alone on the street and rushed to her side. They decided to find her mother, Ryoko, together, but they encountered investigators cornering Ryoko in an alley. Mato, one of the investigators, taunted Ryoko and killed her. Kaneki managed to calm Hanami and hide from the investigators. Back at Anteku, Tauka returned to find everyone saddened by Ryoko's death. She wanted revenge, but Yomo and Yashimura disagreed. Kaneki blamed himself, but Yashimura tried to console him. Tauka and Kaneki had their own emotional struggles, with Tauka feeling upset and Kaneki finding no comfort in Yashimura's words. At the 20th Ward branch office, Amin, Ippei, and Nakajima had dinner together after work. They were attacked by a girl named Tauka wearing a rabbit mask. Tauka injured Ippei, and Amin fought her in Mato. Tauka managed to escape. At Anteku, Kaneki cared for Hanami, and they discovered Tauka injured. Yashimura refused to help Tauka, believing she put herself in danger. Kaneki wanted to go after her, but Yashimura stopped him. Later, Kaneki found Tauka and offered his assistance and understanding. At the CCG, they held a service for Ippei, and Amin was present. Afterward, Maru discussed a new mission with Amin. Tauka and Kaneki explored a dark area with her secrets hinted at. Mato received a tip about a ghoul known as number 745, and Amin contemplated making the world better. Kaneki visited HYSY Art Mask Studio to get a special mask for dealing with ghouls and investigators. Kaneki offers to assist Tauka in finding Hanami, who has gone missing. They split up, but when they hear Hanami's screams, Kaneki rushes to her aid. Amin chases after Tauka, mistaking her for the ghoul known as Rabbit. Kaneki intervenes and a fight ensues, But Kaneki realizes the misunderstanding about ghouls and humans. He spares Ammon and lets him escape. Tauka finds Hanami near the waterway, distraught over her mother's remains. Mato shows up and taunts Tauka, leading to a fight. Mato threatens to use Hanami as a quink and injures her, but she fights back. Tauka can't bring herself to kill Mato, who reveals a quink made from Hanami's mother's kagyun. In the end, Tauka kills Mato to protect Hanami. Meanwhile, Kaneki struggles with his ghoul instincts and accidentally harms someone. Yomo helps calm him down and gives him a package. Together, they find Tauka and Hanami, and they all head home. Hanami feels lost without her parents, but Kaneki reassures her that her mother wanted her to live. In the waterway, Ammon discovers Mato's lifeless body, and he grieves his mentor's death. In a flashback, Ammon starts working at the CCG and meets Arima, who introduces him to his partner, Mato. They investigate the Applehead Ghoul case, where the suspect is an elderly woman named Kai. Ammon is shocked to learn about her medical records seeming normal for a human. Mato assures him that the records can be faked easily, and everything is part of their plan. However, Ammon feels his partner is not taking the job seriously and leaves in anger. Later, Kai reveals her true identity as the Applehead Ghoul and attacks Ammon, but Mato comes to his rescue. In the present, Ammon encounters Yukinori Shinohara on his way to visit Mato's grave, and they plan to talk more later. Meanwhile, the CCG prepares for a mission in the 11th Ward, bringing in Seidu Takazawa and Kusuke Hauji to aid in the operation in the 20th Ward. Life at Anteku starts to return to normal, welcoming a new pet named Heder, and Hanami begins living with Tauka. Kaneki seeks information about Rise from Itori, but learns little, except that she came from the 11th Ward. The next day, Kaneki tells his friend Hyde that he was robbed on his way home but can't identify the thief. He seems unfazed by it. The news reports that the CCG is sending more investigators to the 20th Ward due to increased ghoul activity. The Anteku staff discusses their concerns about an aggressive ghoul organization targeting investigators. Kaneki and Tauka discuss their families and personal feelings. Meanwhile, Hyde overhears Himori and Nico talking about Rise. Kazuichi Banju and his group arrive in the 20th Ward, searching for Rise, and Ayato plans to join them on their mission. A violent ghoul organization known as Aogiri Tree instills fear in various wards, making everyone cautious. The 11th Ward faces a brutal attack as ghouls team up to target and eliminate investigators, leading to the complete destruction of the 11th Ward branch office. Marud, stationed at the 20th Ward branch office, anxiously awaits news until he receives confirmation of the devastating event. An emergency meeting is called to discuss the situation, revealing that there were no survivors in the 11th Ward attack. The CCG plans a large-scale counterattack against the gang responsible. During the meeting, Juzu arrives late, disrupting the proceedings. Ammon and Shinohara spend time researching and strategizing for the upcoming mission. Ammon is surprised that Marud allowed Juzu to participate, but Shinohara believes there must be a reason for it. Shinohara is worried about facing Yamori, while Ammon is preoccupied with thoughts of Kaneki, which evoke memories from his past. Shinohara mentions that Ammon's quink was broken and suggests using one of Mato's quinks, as per Mato's will. At Anteku, business slows down due to customers' fear of the investigators. When customers do arrive, it turns out to be Banju and the gas masks associated with the dangerous Aogiri group. Banju demands to speak with the manager, but since the manager is absent, he talks to Kaneki and Tauka. Banju becomes angry when he smells Rise scent on Kaneki and threatens him. In the heat of the moment, Kaneki accidentally knocks Banju unconscious with a headbutt. When Banju wakes up, he explains the situation in the 11th Ward and warns Rise to flee because Aogiri is after her. However, Ayato, Tauka's brother and a member of Aogiri, breaks into Anteku and attacks Banju. Tauka intervenes and confronts her brother, leading to a heated argument. Their dispute is interrupted when Yamori and Nico arrive. Yamori takes a keen interest in Kaneki and brutally beats him, rendering him unconscious with the intention of taking him back to Aogiri. Tauka tries to stop them, but she is defeated by Yamori. Fortunately, Yoshimura and Yomo return just in time and realize that Kaneki has been abducted. Later, Yoshimura gathers the staff of Anteku to discuss a plan to rescue Kaneki. Tsukiyama makes an unexpected appearance, invited by Yoshimura to assist in the rescue mission. The 11th Ward becomes a focal point as Aogiri Tree's actions draw everyone's attention. The CCG prepares to launch an attack on them, while Anteku devises a plan to rescue Kaneki. Hyde anxiously watches the news, concerned about the unfolding events. The CCG evacuates civilians from the danger zone. and Anteku seeks assistance from Tsukiyama and Yuta. During the attack on the 11th Ward base, the CCG faces unexpected challenges from sniper ghouls, making their progress difficult. Juzu utilizes Marud's motorcycle to break through and eliminate the snipers, but they encounter formidable Aogiri members within the base. Meanwhile, Anteku capitalizes on the chaos, disguising themselves as Aogiri members to infiltrate the base. Yoshimura, Hanami, and Kaya wait outside while the rest of Anteku's members venture in to search for Kaneki. As they infiltrate, Tsukiyama, Yomo, and Yuta encounter Noro. Tauka encounters Amon but escapes when the Bin brothers attack him. Amon fights back and defeats the Bin brothers using his new weapon, Kura. The situation escalates, and both sides clash fiercely within the 11th Ward base. Kaneki is held captive in Yamori's hobby room. Tatara has given Yamori control over Kaneki as Aogiri deems him useless. Kaneki endures periodic torture and is allowed brief moments of rest to regenerate. Banjo and his friends enter to clean and promise Kaneki that they will save him. The CCG's strongest investigators progress deep into the base and secure various sections. When they reach the rooftop, they are taken aback to find no ghouls present, which seems unusual. The one-eyed owl suddenly appears, catching them off guard. They seek advice from Marud and decide to send a small group of their best investigators willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. As the CCG contends with the formidable one-eyed owl, Tauka desperately searches for Kaneki. She gets attacked by sharp ghoul shards, but Nishiki steps in to protect her. Ayato arrives, and a tense battle ensues inside the base. The situation becomes critical, and the intensity of the battle heightens. Kaneki endures unbearable torture at the hands of Aogiri Tree's Jason Yamori. Amidst the pain, he experiences vivid illusions, revisiting his traumatic past. He recalls his father's death, leaving his overworked mother to support him and her older sister alone. His mother's demise further isolates Kaneki until his friend Hyde becomes his main support. Yamori uses sadistic techniques like counting backward from 1000 by 7 to keep Kaneki sane. He reveals Dr. Kanu's plan to transform Kaneki into a ghoul, using his regenerative abilities to break him mentally. Kaneki suffers from illusions and psychological torment. Yamori forces Kaneki to choose between sparing his friends Shu and Haru, but in his despair, Kaneki offers himself instead. Yamori kills both friends, deepening Kanki's guilt and trauma. Struggling with his past choices, Kaneki realizes his belief in protecting others at any cost caused his mother's suffering. He confronts a manifestation of Rise Kamishiro, who warns him about the consequences of his weaknesses. This emotional trauma pushes Kaneki to embrace his identity as a ghoul. He unleashes newfound strength and seeks brutal revenge against Yamori. Consuming Yamori's Kagyun, Kaneki takes a crucial step towards accepting his ghoul nature.